We're going to start this topic with a lot of definitions, so I'm afraid there's a bit of writing. We're going to start with definition of different types of data. So that's our first heading, is types of data.
Types of data.
There is a fair bit of graphs and a fair bit of writing, sorry. So, data is when we are measuring something that's observable. We're going to look at different types of data, we're particularly interested in numerical data, but of course we do know that there are other types of data. So data splits into, first of all, numerical data. Are you focused?
Yep.
You need to be copying this down. So the first type of data is numerical data. That would be data that is what? Data that is numbers, alright? So it's not very difficult to figure out what that means. Numerical is data that is numbers. So data that is numbers is called numerical data. Now data that is not numbers is called categorical data.
Which you put in categories.
Oh, you're so clever.
Lawrence, I aspire to be as smart as you.
Okay, so categorical is data that is a word. Okay, so word data. For example, what's your favourite colour?
Green.
Blue.
I don't know what the answer, but thank you. So numerical
A
data.
velvety pink with a touch of red and a splash of orange.
That's lovely, Matthew. So numerical data splits into two types. They are called discrete. Has anyone heard that word before?
Yes. Don't humans discrete?
No, that's extreme.
Okay, no, definitely not.
What's the word?
Discrete.
Excrete.
No, that's not the word we're looking for. And continuous.
Yeah, it does mean.
So discrete data is data with set values. For example, if I asked how many children in your family, you're going to give me a whole number. You're not going to tell me that there's 7.65
What if
children in your
they're
family.
conjoined twins?
Well,
There's one. Okay. Two including you.
3 including
So
8.
discrete is when only set values are possible.
There's another line going off this, I'm not going to be happy.
There's not another line going on. So for example, right, just leave it alone. For example, your shoe size.
8.
You could be an 8, a 7.5, but you couldn't be a 12.34.
Does that say vowels?
Set values. Only set values possible. Continuous data is measured data.
Measured data.
Well, we meant to write all this?
Yes, you were.
Every time she writes something, you always.
For example, your height.
That's defined.
Alright, so your height, you don't have to be exactly 140 centimetres. You could be 140.2.
What's
You
that?
don't have to be exactly on a centimetre. So anything you measure is continuous data, but set values, for example, something you count, or your shoe size or your clothing size, is discrete data. And categorical is, for example, your favourite colour, what day of the week you were born, anything that is a word answer. Is everyone happy with those types of data?
You have to get it.
Okay, a couple of other definitions we've got to go over. Data can come from various sources. So we're going to look at the source of data. So that's our next.
I didn't even finish.
You're going to have to catch up.
Oh, there's nobody.
Someone else.
Sick.
Great.
Sick pen next.
Okay,
Sick.
weird things.
Lawrence, what are we doing at lunch?
Source of data. Shh, Matthew. Not appropriate. So the source of data could be a primary source.
Oh, we know this geography.
Oh, geography.
I know, sorry, it's sounding very unmathematical. And secondary.
Oh, look at me, man. It's like an axis.
You guys are so clever.
Fine.
Alright, so what's a primary source?
Ooh.
Yes? Charlie.
That's reliable.
Right, or how do I actually get the data? If I wanted the data from a primary source, what do I have to do?
You see it.
So you actually have to do it.
I told her.
You
Yeah.
actually have to go and collect the data.
Wait, what's
Alright, so it's not exactly the same as history. Source of data. I know my pen was doing weird things. Being a bit weird. So a primary source of data is first hand.
Shush! Sophia. Take that. Is that defiance?
Charlie. Shh. Primary is first-hand information. So you actually go out there and you collect the data. You actually survey people and you collect the data yourself.
I was surveying one time ago.
Secondary, Matthew, that's not really a good time to do this. Secondary is where someone else has collected the data and you're just looking at their results. So for example, there might be a write-up in a paper about results from the CSIRO or in newspapers or magazines. So you are using data that someone else has collected. Okay? So you are using published data. So you might be able to collect that on web pages and newspapers, in magazines. You might be able to collect data that other people have published from surveys they've done. So there are two ways to get data. The only other thing that we've got to look at, has everyone got that down?
Yeah.
No.
I've
Yes.
never written anything.
The only other thing is we need to know who we ask and how many people we ask. So we're going to look at the difference between a census and a sample. Census versus a sample.
They're doing like a census every like 4 years.
Yes. What is a census? They do a census every 5 years. What is it?
They just like see everyone in your family.
Population.
Who do they ask?
The public.
Who?
Everyone.
People.
Everyone.
Humans.
They ask every single, do not touch that. You are. A census is when you ask every single person in the population. Leave it alone.
I am.
So you ask everyone
That country.
in the population. So the census that you were just talking about, Charlie, that's to conduct. They ask everyone in Australia information about where they live and their income and all that sort of stuff. That's everyone in Australia. But if I wanted to know what was the favourite canteen item at Rouse Hill Anglican College, I would ask everyone in the school. That would be my population. I wouldn't have to ask everyone in Australia because they wouldn't know.
Don't walk in front of the camera, Justin.
Okay, I'm nearly done. And then a sample
Dare you?
is when we just select a few people to ask. Okay, so we just survey. Can you wait there for a second? Survey a selected number from the population. So we're just going to practice a couple of questions from exercise 9A that check we understand those definitions.
Right.
Stop the video.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
So exercise 9A is on page 547. You can have about 10 minutes to do as many as you can.
Okay.
Okay, welcome.
Which page, miss?
Page 547. Did anyone need me to go back to any of the other definitions?
First one. I just need to category.
Which one did you miss? This one?
It's really gay. It's English.
Oh wait, can I
Trust
have
me.